Hello, and welcome to the Heart of Dentistry podcast. We're looking forward to bringing you the tools that will be so helpful in making your career full of heart and fulfillment. Hello, everyone. We are back with Dr. Greg Toback, and I am so excited to welcome you to the Heart of Dentistry. We are delighted to have a periodontitis
Take two.
periodontist with us. It's always one of my very favorite conversations as a clinical practicing dental hygienist. So, Jamie, tell us.
Yeah, so Dr. Toback is out in the Connecticut area, and I worked with he has a handful of practices out there just after COVID when the country opened back up, and I loved working with him. He does run a periodontal practice, and I wanted to ask you, I did a TED Talk style this past weekend, and the title of it was, so you want premium price, you want premium salary, but are you delivering premium services? Meant to hit it head on to the hygienist. And so you were kind of talking off the recording about where you guys are at with that whole model. We know, it's no secret that supply and demand has created this increase by 25 to 30% increase for the same services the hygienists were doing just 2 years ago. And so tell us a little bit, with you having 10 practices, tell us, how is that affecting you, and where are you guys at with it? How are you getting these hygienists to be motivated to do more for that price?
So, and I could speak both from our perio office perspective as well as our restorative doc perspectives, since we have both types of offices within Resolute Dental Partners. But without a doubt, I mean, we're in a really unusual labor market post-COVID. We saw the exit of so many of those final generation clinical workers, both hygienists as well as dental assistants, and the supply and demand curve is upside down right now, and that's driven up wages, and so it's forced us to get very competitive and articulate in what the benefits are for working within our Resolute family of practices. Specifically for hygienists, post-COVID, we implemented a compensation model that shares in the revenue production with the hygienist. So rather than we give them an hourly base, but we have an adjusted compensation model so that every quarter they're leveled up to their productivity. So it leaves them with unlimited opportunity. And so the types of hygienists that we attract are really those who are either self-starters, highly motivated, or those who want the support to be there. Because we have retained, the vast majority of our hygienists, we've been able to maintain and then recruit new hygienists as well. We've also really worked hard to remove the script of, I want a higher pay, I want a higher hourly wage. My friend got an offer for, $5 more an hour. That will never win that game, not in today's market, right? Because even if you make that adjustment today, they'll have a friend that gets a higher pay tomorrow. And so what we've really focused on is supporting through education, supporting through mentorship, their ability to be able to offer more for their patients, more services, through their own ability to articulate and educate their patients. And that's the rub. Like a lot of, I think, traditional hygienists, they want to be paid an hourly wage and kind of do what's comfortable within their wheelhouse today. And that's not a win-win solution, because that'll end up with a practice upside down on their cost curve for their hygiene program. And obviously that's the big talk in dentistry today, like the cost of their hygiene program. But if we continue to support our hygienists and educate them and provide them with mentorship, And so one of the things we've had to do, and Jamie, I'll credit you and the work that we did with you in calibrating our hygienists. So this was so important to us. And we did this back in 2019. It was really the first thing we did coming back from COVID. It was the first educational program that we ran. And part of that with you was calibrating our hygienists. And are they seeing what we see? And I remember how much emotion was involved in that, not just from the hygienist, but even the dentist. Like there was this, like, are you challenging my ability to diagnose? And it's like, well, yeah, kind of. And then today, where we are today, it's really like an exciting part of what we do is calibrating all of our team members. So when we took on a new office, one of the first things we do is we give some baseline education to the hygiene and the doctors. And then what we did is we promoted Stephanie as our hygiene director. We taught her how to do the calibrations. And then in a very supportive manner, she goes in and she calibrates the hygienists and the dentists and makes sure that, hey, are all three entities seeing this the same way? Because, Stephanie was calibrated by me. So, the hope is that if I were to probe a patient and diagnose a patient, are they a 3B or 3C perio diagnosis? I want Stephanie to be able to diagnose that patient that way. And then I want each of our offices, whether it was a general practice or one of our perio offices, to diagnose it the same way, and for us to be within certain guardrails of one another.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead, Brandi.
So one of the challenges, and I would love to preface this comment with, when I'm a clinical hygienist, I prefer the rev share and based more like an associate pay. I personally, for me, that's what I prefer. However, I will say that my experience as a clinical hygienist, a practice owner, and a coach, oftentimes when we do something that becomes production-based, some of the teamwork disappears and some of the patient care. They start looking at, well, how can I provide services to increase the profit that I am making per appointment so that I can make more money? And I am a bleeding heart, and I think we should do nothing unless it is in the very best interest of our patient and the quality care that they need. And I want to know what the research says for immediate healing, but I also want to know what it looks like 5 years down the road. And so those are two really powerful, just risks of being human, right? We're all guilty of the 7 deadly sins and forgetting our head as we're like chasing something shiny. But how have you been able to combat the teamwork and the, for simplicity, let's just call it greed of the situation with your team members?
Core values, drives everything. And core values at Resolute Dental Partners are foundationally important. We talk about it often. We reinforce it. We teach it. We communicate core values. And we assume at every turn that we are all, and integrity is one of our 4 core values. So we assume that everyone is operating within the guidelines of our core values and are operating at the highest level of integrity. And we can offer great care. We can offer patients the opportunity for greater health. We could also be highly productive in doing it and don't have to oversell dentistry. We don't have to sell pay. And listen, we've all seen it, right? Like we've seen patients come in, and they'll come for a second opinion to us as a perio group, and they'll say, hey, I was told I've got like advanced gum disease and I need all this treatment and whatever. And you look at the patient and they're like perfectly healthy with maybe like 2 molars that have a little gingivitis. And, those are hard conversations to have with patients. And clearly we're overselling dentistry that wasn't needed there. It's absolutely like, again, going back to calibration. It works both ways. Can you identify the disease if it's there? And can you identify health if it's there? And are we consistent with one another? So I think one of the greatest pushbacks that I've gotten as I've talked to doctors outside of our group, when we talk to them about, using compensation models for hygienists is that number one, that they're going to be driven to try to do things that they shouldn't do. It has not been our experience at all. We just haven't seen it, and not that it wouldn't happen or it hasn't happened like on some early level, but again, that's why the support is there, the education is there, and if we saw something pop up, we track all of our metrics, and so if we're seeing something funny, like we'll look at it and we'll communicate with that individual, and if we ever suspect that someone was operating not in good faith, they're not a fit for our company or our practice, and they would be exited very quickly.
Yeah.
So, but it just is not a general problem in terms of teamwork. Because I think that was one, like, hey, like everything should be focused on me. The front desk, team should be focused on me because about my production, and the assistant should be helping me because, well, that's team dynamic. And that's why you need a great leadership, local leadership in the practice to make sure that they're reinforcing the team spirit within their own culture, their own organization, their own practice. So that's really driven locally. And what we did do is we had the hygienists on an adjustable compensation program, which worked well to try to get them in alignment of being a productive clinical provider. And then we had the assistants and the admin team on a separate bonus plan for the overall performance of the practice. And what we ended up doing is bringing the hygienist into that as well, because we wanted the hygienist to be in tune what was important to the assistants and the admin team, so that it couldn't be misconstrued they were serving the hygienist, but rather were serving one another. So we're constantly tweaking and adjusting and exploring and then measuring the results on things like that. But I found overwhelmingly the most important thing is that if you have a strong local culture through strong local leadership, it's going to help drive the message within the team. And if you don't, then I think those things can start to work themselves out.
Yeah. And I think that, like you said, if you don't have a strong leadership, communication, and culture, the compensation part is probably the least of your worries. You got some other bigger fish to fry before it gets to that. I have every single one of my clients right now on, I call it a hybrid compensation program. And it's basically what you're saying. And it is like, I find out what the area's rate is through the government. So what's the low 10%? What's the median for pay right now in that area? And what's the upper 10%? And we get them somewhere in the middle to low, and then a net commission off of what they produce. And they all know that if I don't have an opening for my patient that doctor and I recommended periotherapy on, it goes to the first hygienist, and it goes both ways. We want to get that patient back for the betterment of the patient and not for the betterment of just my pocket. So if we can't get them back within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they may not come back anyways, even if it was with me 2 months down the road. So I love that. I really do believe that this hybrid compensation is kind of the way to go. Go ahead.
It provides the safety net that a lot of hygienists want. Like I need some peace of mind that I could support my family. Mm-hmm. Yet I want the opportunity to do something great because I believe I'm capable. Those are the kinds of team members that we're looking for.
Yeah.
And I think ones that are attracted to our model.
Most of them are making it's kind of like, of course, there's a ceiling because you can only see so many patients. But what I have found with this is just the opposite, that the teamwork is there in that they are, because the culture is there, but they are making, so let's say 40 is the median for that area. They're making, and 50 is the top 10% for the area. Most of them are making closer to $12 to $15 more an hour, just depending on, what they're helping the patient get to, the state of health, by what their recommendations are. So no one's complaining, I'm noticing. I haven't had anyone really complaining in all of these offices that I've implemented it.
I will say that
go ahead.
Having the compensation plan in of itself was not enough for us. So it helped, I would say the top third really understood it, embraced it, and achieved it. The middle third were hit or miss based on like just the circumstance of their schedule. and the bottom third like almost resented it. And so because it's impossible, I can't do it. It wasn't until we trained Stephanie and she got out and she started having regular one-on-one meetings, actually not one-on-ones. She would pull in the lead doctor, the business manager, and the hygienist, and they would look at the scorecard for the hygienist. And in the beginning, they were very anxious, like, oh my God, we're going to actually look at my performance and we're going to talk about my performance. Like, it's like a report card. And
I'm not back in hygiene school.
And when they realized, was actually like, no, we actually want to talk to you about opportunities. Do you realize that, you're only placing fluoride in 15% of your patients? And here's what the research says in terms of the patient population that you treat and the population that would benefit from fluoride. And by the way, if we look at the benchmark across the rest of our organization, they're running at 50% plus, and you're at 15%. If you just leveled up to where everyone else in the company is doing, look at what could happen for your patients and look what could happen for you. And like those kinds of conversations actually have manifest themselves into changes that we hadn't seen before. So just having the compensation plan is not enough. You have to educate them.
I agree 100%. I agree. When we did the all bonus on one of the offices, the lead hygienist that was diagnosing a lot of the perio, of course she wasn't diagnosing, but with the doctor's blessing, was recommending but there was one hygienist that never was recommending, but they were on an equal bonus. Everybody in the office made the same bonus. Finally, the lead hygienist said, I'm getting tired of padding her pockets with my diagnosis because she's not having the difficult conversations and educating the patient. So that's why one of the reasons we went to the hybrid model, and it's amazing what those numbers have gone up on that one hygienist that wasn't recommending high-level services. Her numbers have gone clear up. It's amazing. And the patients are healthier. The numbers just tell a story. It's not necessarily the end all, but they do paint a story for us. I like that.
I think when people feel supported, again, the resentment, I think, was when they felt that they didn't have a chance at achieving it. When they felt that that it was just something that was out there that they was not in their grasp. When we empower them, we support them and empower them, I think that's when it becomes a very powerful vehicle to create alignments.
Yeah.
Well, our hat is off to you, Dr. Toback. That is brilliant. And I would also add that I think our hearts are in line with you. Like, it has to come from who you are as a human being, and then it radiates out from there. So thank you so much for honoring us with your one unrenewable resource. We feel so grateful for your time today. Thank you for enlightening all of us here at the Heart of Dentistry.
Thank you very much, Dr. Toback.
Thank you.